Country music was never just twang, trucks, or prairie dust floating beneath pickup headlights. From the first barn dance broadcasts, its melody banked on borrowed rhythms, outlaw harmonies, and voices that promoters begged to keep outside the spotlight. Today, that same spotlight swings toward performers whose family trees spilled across borders Nashville pretended did not exist. Some masked their lineage beneath carefully pressed suits. Others marched onto the Grand Ole Opry with pride stitched into every note. All forced a stubborn industry to confront the question it had dodged for decades. Who gets to claim the lonesome sound of the South? Their triumphs, setbacks, late-night rumors, and whispered backstage betrayals rewrote the rulebook you thought you knew. Listen closely, because the dust they kicked up still drifts through every modern chorus. Their stories reveal grit, grace, and rebellion behind the rhinestones. Charlie Pride stepped onto country radio during the civil rights firestorm, a former ball player whose velvet baritone tested the color line each time a DJ spoke his name. Program directors mailed his first singles without photos, swearing he was a white crooner from Texas. When audiences finally saw the man behind Just Between You and Me, some booed, others froze. Yet Pride kept smiling until jeers melted into encores. He stacked #1 hits like spare strings, clutching them whenever hate mail slithered in. Offstage, he found hotel lobbies misplacing reservations and promoters pointing him toward rear doors. Pride answered with dominance, standing ovations, and a handshake so warm even cynics thawed. He showed the gate was never locked, only guarded by fear, and he walked right through. Linda Martell rolled into Nashville with a South Carolina smile and a voice clear enough to scrape rust off barbed wire. She became the first black woman to stand solo beneath the Opry's circle of sacred oak, delivering "Color Him Father" so pure it hushed every clinking glass. Executives applauded, called her progress, then buried her next recordings behind safer releases. A promoter claimed she scared rural ticket buyers. Posters quietly vanished. Martell drove herself to dusty fairs, sleeping in the van between counties alone, selling vinyl from the trunk and turning hay bales into stages. When radio refused her follow-up single, she sang louder, letting each note embarrass the hypocrisy. The ripple she sparked still rumbles the Opry boards whenever a newcomer refuses to whisper. Ray Charles rolled into a Nashville studio in 1962 and laid a church piano under a weeping steel guitar. Purists hissed that a blind rhythm and blues man had no right touching the crown jewels of honky-tonk. Charles grinned and pressed record. When modern sounds in country and western music hit shelves, jukeboxes rang like Sunday choirs inside taverns. He bent Hank Williams until the melody shivered, turned "You Don't Know Me" into heartbreak you could two-step to, and watched segregated radio lines fray in real time. Gossip swirled that he'd ruined the genre. Meanwhile, sales exploded so fast, labels claimed they had supported him all along. Charles kept pushing, proving country's heart can still beat with soul's cadence, and every modern crossover owes him royalties in spirit. Defor Bailey could make a harmonica mimic Midnight Freight and Sunrise Songbirds in one breath. In the 1920s, he strode onto the new Grand Ole Opry as its first black star, his faint native roots cloaked beneath a modest grin. Crowds begged for his train impression, yet management kept him backstage between sets so white acts could dominate. When new royalty rules threatened budgets, the Opry fired him rather than pay. Bailey returned to shoeshine stands, whistling tunes he'd once sent swirling across nationwide radios all through the South. History books forgot him, but players from Little Walter to Charlie McCoy echoed riffs lifted from his vanished solos. Only in old age did Nashville call him home for a tribute, and the ovation shook the rafters. Tina Turner strutted across stages in armor, yet buried inside her roar was the clapboard front porch of Nutbush, Tennessee. Cherokee roots threaded her mother's blood, and young Anna Mae soaked up every fiddle lick leaking from battery-powered radios. After torching rock arenas, she surprised fans with tracks that let pedal steel slide beneath her rasp, proving twang could dance with thunder. Critics called it genre confusion, Turner called it homecoming. She once told a reporter country rhythms felt like bare feet on summer boards, raw and unashamed. Nashville courted her belatedly, offering polite duets, but she had already taught the world to mix grit with glitter on her own terms. Her spark still crackles whenever modern divas dare add banjo to a stadium beat. Darius Rucker already owned stadium sing-alongs with Hootie and the Blowfish when he swapped grunge for cowboy boots. Some fans cheered, others mailed snarling letters claiming country wasn't for a black frontman with Gullah and Cherokee roots. Rucker answered with Don't Think I Don't Think About It, the first debut single by a black artist to reach #1 since Pride. He toured cramped honky-tonks to prove sincerity, shaking hands until calluses matched guitar strings. Behind closed doors, nationwide consultants debated whether his accent sounded authentic enough. Meanwhile, the hook wound around millions of dashboards. Rucker kept releasing chart toppers, hosting Opry nights, and smiling through coded questions about demographics. His crossover reminded Nashville still that authenticity isn't stitched into skin, but carved into storytelling courage. Mickey Gton stepped onto the Grammy stage in a shimmering gown, singing about a world that often refused to see her. Biracial and Texas-raised, she loved Patsy and Whitney equally, yet label meetings asked if she could sound more mainstream, meaning less herself. Gton answered with Black Like Me, a ballad that floated heartbreak over soft dobro and dared radio to ignore reality. Many did. Streamers did not. She became both token and trailblazer, invited to diversity panels while fighting for basic playlist slots. Still, she persisted, releasing tracks that stitch gospel into lullabies and hard-edged truth for everyone, and penning lyrics sharp enough to cut respectability politics. Every high note she belts is part prayer, part warning. Country's future must include her or rust. Stony Edwards rolled into Nashville in the early 70s with a battered guitar, voice scarred by oil field shifts, and Cheyenne blood in his veins. Labels called him the next Charlie Pride, then flinched when his honky-tonk sets felt too raw for television. She's My Rock climbed the charts, yet DJs kept mangling his name as if accuracy might grant permanence. A farm accident had nearly taken his right arm. He joked the ache bent sweeter notes. Critics muttered novelty, but Merle Haggard said brother and handed him opening slots. Edwards won crowds one county at a time until a bus wreck wrecked his budget. Executives moved on. Diehard fans kept spinning his records, swearing nobody sings heartbreak like a man Nashville tried to erase, still today. Triny Triggs hit late 90s country radio with Creole swagger and a grin sharp enough to slice neon. His debut single Horse to Mexico rose up the charts, but programmers treated him like a novelty instead of a contender. Triggs played every dance hall from Beaumont to Bakersfield, blending Zydeco spice with boot-scoot grooves until the floors steamed. A critic quipped his sound was too Louisiana for Nashville, too Nashville for Louisiana, which was exactly why it crackled. Labels hesitated to spend marketing dollars past the Gulf Coast, citing fuzzy demographics. Triggs kept touring, signing posters for kids who had never seen a black cowboy headline. Though radio drifted toward pop country fizz, DJs swear his set felt like a hurricane in 5 minutes, proof that diversity fuels energy. Freddie Fender's voice carried two worlds, Spanish croon on one breath, Texas twang on the next. Born Baldemar Huerta, he changed his name at a DJ's urging, one of many compromises forced by segregated airwaves. After a small prison stint for carrying cannabis, he worked the docks, writing songs that smelled of salt and heartbreak. Before the Next Teardrop Falls topped both country and pop, yet some stations faded the bilingual verse, fearing listeners might flip dials. Fender merely laughed, strummed, and let royalties pour like Gulf rain. Rumor claimed he spent advances on custom suits and backyard barbecues alike under starlit coastal nights with friends. Every note reminded Nashville that accordion riffs could kiss steel strings, and Tex-Mex sorrow could cry inside the Opry circle. Johnny Rodriguez scored his first gig singing to jailers after a teenage cattle rustling charge landed him behind bars. Texas Ranger Jordan scouted talent in those dusty cells, hauled Johnny to a radio show, and within a year, Nashville offered contracts. As the first Mexican-American country star, Rodriguez fenced with 2 languages, slipping Spanish endearments into heartbreak ballads. Some fans mailed threats, others mailed marriage proposals. Radio censors argued how many rolled R's a chorus could contain before scaring advertisers. Johnny ignored them, letting "Ridin' My Thumb to Mexico" roar up the charts. He toured hard, sometimes rumored to OD'd on the chaos of fame, yet always reappearing with a grin wider than the border. His success carved a trail Latino artists still follow, dusty but undeniable. Dobie Gray crooned, "Drift away so easy it felt like headlights on an empty interstate," but his heart beat as much country as soul. Raised on a farm to parents of African and Native lineage, he learned hymns beside barbed wire, then carried those chords to Los Angeles studios. Producers wanted him boxed in R&B. Gray slipped steel guitar under the mix and smiled when executives failed to notice. Radio labeled him crossover, as though creativity were trespass. He countered with cowboy boots on Soul Train and afros at the Opry, rewriting dress codes both places. Industry uncertainty cost him slots, yet his melodies slid into karaoke bars. Every time someone sings "Give Me the Beat Boys," they echo a boundary he shattered a generation ago. Rian Giddens steps on stage cradling a banjo older than electricity and reminds the crowd black hands built it. Classically trained yet Carolina-born, her mixed roots guide fingers through reels once trapped on wax cylinders. She exhumes plantation-era fiddle tunes, polishes them, then drops them into playlists for restless ears hungry for buried truth beside trap beats. Critics whisper academic, Giddens just sings until the whisper splits. She curates forgotten songbooks, showing Americana festivals that traditional often means selective. When she premiered At the Purchaser's Option, a cradle song about bondage, the room froze, then thundered. Her mission isn't chasing charts, it's chasing ghosts, turning unmarked graves into echo chambers. Every bow stroke insists history still hums under these floorboards, and denying that won't hush it. Buffy Sainte Marie hit 1960s Greenwich Village with Cree blood blazing under every syllable. She penned protest ballads the government wished would vanish and watched safer folk acts cover them. Her vibrato could soothe lullabies, but she aimed it like a blowtorch at complacency, writing "Universal Soldier" on a bar napkin. When her anti-war stance angered power, radio suddenly lost her records and visas stalled. Sainte Marie pivoted to electronic layers, mixing early synths with powwow drums, foreshadowing sounds decades ahead. Years later, files showed she'd been blacklisted. She greeted the revelation with a grin and another album. She also helped Indigenous students earn degrees by donating publishing checks quietly back. Her story proves folk and country grow sharper than any guitar when the storyteller refuses to flinch. Jotex slid across the soul stage in satin suits, but behind the splits lay years of barn dances and hay rides in rural Texas, where his Creole heritage soaked up both gospel shouts and jukebox twang. He flirted with country themes on B-sides, dropping talk-sing stories about cheating hearts that would later fuel rap cadences. While James Brown called him competition, Tex played fairs where fried dough smoke curled above Stetsons. DJs loved his swagger until he mentioned cutting a full country album. Then phone lines went silent. He never got the budget, yet his phrasing slipped into everyone from Waylon to Outkast. Spin any of his hits and listen for the ghost of a steel guitar nudging the groove, reminding listeners boundaries were only chalk lines. In Bayou dance halls, Creole bands kept Hank Williams alive long after his Cadillac cooled. Fiddles tangled with accordion under French lyrics that still carried Alabama sorrow. Many players of mixed African, Native, and French blood dubbed the sets tributes, but really they were reclamations. Proof a boy from Georgiana borrowed as much from Blackstreet buskers as he gave to white crowds. Jukebox distributors rarely logged the singles, yet bootleg tapes drifted through shrimp boats and truck stops. Tourists called the songs novelty. Locals two-stepped until sweat blurred the air. When Nashville producers finally visited, they labeled the sound regional spice, missing the obvious. Country's skeleton was already Creole seasoned. The Bayou Kings kept playing because culture isn't a brand. It's a long heartbeat, still refusing to hush. Aaron Neville's falsetto floated like incense above chapel pews, then waded into gumbo brass back home. His Creole lineage flavored every hymn, and when he joined Linda Ronstadt on country classics, critics gasped at the velvet knife in his tone. He grew up harmonizing with brothers under streetlights, trading gospel runs for cans of soda most nights. Some stations balked, branding the duets adult contemporary fluff. Listeners bought them anyway. Neville never begged for genre approval. He simply delivered songs that felt like summer rain on tin roofs. A tiny cross tattoo on his cheek recalled hard streets, yet the same voice later serenaded presidents. Whenever he slides into the Grand Tour, you hear Memphis soul hugging Nashville sorrow. Proof borders melt when a note rings true. Johnny Horton sang about battlefields and icy shipwrecks with the gusto of a carnival barker. But rumors swirled that Cherokee blood flowed through his family tree. He never confirmed it outright. Instead, he peppered lyrics with reverence for frontier tribes and rode the line between myth and memoir. The Battle of New Orleans exploded, yet some historians grumbled his accents blurred fact. Horton shrugged, arguing that a great story should rattle more than textbooks. He toured relentlessly until a drunk driver cut his headlights on a Louisiana highway, ending the ride too soon. Fans claimed they heard his ghostly voice on CB radios for weeks afterward. Whenever modern artists mix folk legend and power chords, they borrow a page from Horton's playbook, still inked with mystery. Long before retro soul darling Leon Bridges swayed in sharp suits, he was a Fort Worth dishwasher humming old gospel and country melodies between clattering plates. His mixed heritage stitched church choirs to cowboy ballads, and you can still hear it sneaking through the blue notes of Coming Home. Critics file him under R&B, yet Bridges credits Ernest Tubb alongside Sam Cooke. He once played a honky-tonk open mic wearing thrift store boots. The bar went silent, unsure what box to check. Months later, he sold out theaters worldwide, proving genre labels evaporate when sincerity takes the mic. Each time his velvety tenor brushes a slide guitar, you glimpse the juke joints where race lines once split the dance floor, and remember, music has longer arms than fences. Jimmy Rogers, the singing brakeman, wasn't biracial, yet his yodels borrowed freely from black bluesmen he jammed with along rail yards. He tipped them coins for lessons, then carried their licks onto Victor records that birthed modern country. Stories say Rogers never used set lists, letting train whistles dictate key changes mid-show. While polite society hailed him pioneer, folks in the sidetracks knew he was bridge and borrower both. His tuberculosis-strained voice cracked like a dusty porch door, making sorrow sound inviting. When he died at 35, guitars across the South fell silent for a moment, then resumed, sliding closer to those blues runs. Every racially mixed artist who dares reshape country's DNA stands on Rogers' tracks, proving collaboration outruns segregation whenever the rhythm is right. These tales aren't side notes, they are the hidden chords beneath every chart topper booming from truck stereos today. Each artist, celebrated or sidelined, slipped extra color into country's palette, blending Creole accordions with steel guitars, soul falsettos with fiddle cries. They faced hate mail, budget excuses, locked studio doors, yet their songs still crossed borders and hopped generations with fearless rhythm everywhere. Listen closely and you'll catch Charlie Pride's resolve in new baritone ballads, Linda Martell's grit in each stage debut, and Ray Charles's swing in pop country crossovers. The genre keeps exporting pickup truck anthems, but its engine turns on sparks these barrier breakers ignited. Next time someone claims country is narrow as a dirt road, remember the highway underneath was paved by voices who refused to disappear, and their echoes urge us to widen the lane until it fits everyone ready to sing.